So we are going to start by talking about just what we did yesterday, which I asked you in your bell ringer to tell me what are 3 of the parts of the introduction, because we're talking about the how to put a speech together. What do we put in the introduction?
Grab attention.
Okay, so we've got an attention getter. We need to grab the audience's attention. What's the next thing we need to do? Well, what do we basically have? We have an attention getter. We need a well, yeah, that's the next step. Then we need a link of some kind, sentences to take us from the attention getter to the thesis statement. That's another part of the speech or the introduction that we have to have. And then what do we end our introductions with? What do we have to do? We give them a, nobody remembers? No. Preview. We give them a preview, guys, of the main points of our speech, okay? Because remember I told you, we're going to tell them what we're going to talk about, we're going to talk about it, and we're going to tell them what we told them. That's what we do in a speech. We cover those main points 3 times, okay? So what we're going to talk about today is the body of the speech. How do we start organizing it and what goes into it, okay? So make sure you have your notes back open. All right, let me get to the right. Okay. Hang on a second. Caitlin, are you still the only one? Nope, Caleb's there. Okay. Let me change attendance real quick. If I don't do it now, I'll forget. Okay, there we go. All right, so we're going to continue on, and we're going to cover the body of the speech today. We might do the conclusion, depends on where we are for time. So from the current slide. Come on, work for me. There we go. Okay, so the body of your speech. Everybody have your notes open that we started yesterday. Michael, did you find where the note, it says the parts of a speech notes?
Yeah.
Okay, so folks, here's how it works. We want to start working on our speech by creating a purpose statement. And we put that with the body because that's the part of the speech you should work on first. Don't try, hey guys, don't try to write your introduction first. Write the body. Start with the body. The body is what's going to determine, hey, this is what I'm going to put in. These are the things I want to cover. And once you have that, then it's much easier to write an introduction and a conclusion, okay? But we want to write a purpose statement. And a purpose statement is a working thesis statement. It's not a sentence that we're going to actually include in the delivery of our speech. We're going to use it to guide us as we work on the speech, as we do research, as we start organizing what we're going to cover in the speech, as we start putting it together. So it just says place it at the top of the page. You know, if you're taking notes or you're writing out a draft or an outline, it's the guide for you. Now, you can change it to, can you see okay? Yeah. Okay. You can change it to be a thesis statement. Okay. You can turn it into your thesis statement, but you have to reword it a little bit. Everybody have this part down? No. Okay. You know what? I'm going to see if I can move a little bit further to the side and still control this without wanting to move my computer. Okay. It's hard for me to tell if it's me you're trying to look around or Quentin. Okay. Okay. All right. They've already started dismantling our rooms. Mine was partially dismantled yesterday. It's weird. Yeah, it's really weird. Okay, anybody still writing this down? Okay, so here's an example of purpose statements. Okay, the purpose of this speech is to inform the audience about the pros and cons of mid-year graduation for high school seniors. Okay, if you were actually going to change that to a thesis statement, you might say something like, so today I'd like to talk to you about the pros and cons of mid-year graduation. Okay, you would simplify it. You're not going to say the purpose of the speech is to do this, but you will write it out like that. So in your mind, as you're working on the speech, you know exactly what you're trying to do. Or as another example, the purpose of this speech is to explain to the audience the steps that a person must go through to become certified in life-saving. Okay, and it also helps you in your research. It helps you when you're writing the speech so that you don't go off onto tangents. I know I can go off onto tangents and I don't need to do that. We don't need to talk about that. We're focused on this, okay? So that's what a purpose statement is. And we use it with the body because we want to start with the body of the speech. All right? So how do we set the body up then? Well, we're going to start with main headings, okay? Main headings are the major divisions, areas, or arguments of your purpose statement. They represent the main ideas you want to analyze and present. So when you're doing a speech, or even when you're doing an essay, we always say you should have 2 or 3 body paragraphs, right? Same thing for a speech. You need 2 or 3 main points. What are the areas you're going to cover? If you're going to do a speech about Michael Jordan, maybe you're going to talk about his childhood and high school career, his college career, and his NBA career. Okay, those would be your 3 main headings. You could divide it up into 4 or 5 headings. You could talk about his childhood, you could talk about his high school career, his college career, his pro career in the NBA. You could talk about his baseball career and his advertising. There are all kinds of things you could talk about with Michael Jordan. Yeah, he played baseball for a brief time too.
Now he owns the Cardinals and Charlotte Hornets.
Is he? Yeah. Did he ever make it into the majors, or did he stick with them? Was he only in a minor league team?
He was with the practice squad of the White Sox.
Okay.
He was on the practice squad.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, there have been football players who also were very good baseball players and played. Did he? But he doesn't play for a professional baseball team, though.
No, not currently, but he did.
Bo Jackson.
He did?
He did.
I was thinking of Bo Jackson. Who did Mahomes play for? Really? I thought he went straight out of college into
No.
Kansas City. No?
He played baseball for a while. He was a pitcher.
I
Why
did
he's
not
got
know
such a
that.
strong arm.
Okay. That makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, Bo Jackson played baseball and football at the same time. Yes. Yes, he was. There was somebody else too. There was at least one other. But yeah, Bo Jackson is the most well-known one. He would. I think it was, depending on how far his team went in baseball, he would sometimes miss the first couple of games of the football season. But the teams had worked that out with each other. It was part of his contract that he could do that. So, okay. So we understand the main headings. So let me show you an example of it. So here's our purpose statement. Now this is an example straight out of your textbook. And I want you to notice a couple of things. It says the purpose of this speech is to show my audience the serious harms related to smoking. Okay, so we're going to do a speech about smoking. And so we've got 3 Roman numerals. That's what we use to set up our main points. We're going to use Roman numerals for each main point. This is part of outlining, guys. So the first main point is smoking can lead to serious health problems for the smoker. The second main point, smoking can even affect the health of others innocently in the vicinity of the smoker. And the third point is smoking can contribute to economic problems. So these are the 3 areas this speech is going to cover. All right. Now, I want you to notice something else. They wrote out their main points in complete sentences. And that's okay. You can do that. I wasn't taught that way. I was taught in outlining, you, wherever you can, you just do little phrases or titles. Okay. And so if I were writing this myself, I would have put Roman numeral 1, health problems for smoker. Roman numeral 2, second and third hand smoke. Roman numeral 3, economic problems. That's how I would have labeled it. And that's okay too. That's how I was taught. You do it in an outline, you do it in phrases and labels wherever you can. Okay? So you've got 3 main points. We use Roman numerals for those main points. The next thing we have to do, underneath those main points, we have supporting points. We got to break down each of those main points. All right? So here's the next part, the supporting points. They intensify and reinforce those main headings. They are more specific and they are narrower than the main heading. So I'm going to show you an example of that too after you get this typed in. So all of you in here who also wear glasses with your masks, do you ever, between the things on the strings on the mask and your glasses temples, do your ears start to hurt?
Nope.
Yeah. That's what mine are doing today.
These like cut into my ears.
See, these aren't too bad. These are fine, but then you put the glasses on top of them and it just starts to, yeah. And then, what?
I don't have glasses, but they still look like
Well, sometimes it depends on like this mask is big, the strings are big enough, it doesn't bother my ears. But the glasses on top of the strings, that bothers my ears. And then my glasses don't want to stay up. They start falling off because the strings are in the way, and they fell off my face earlier today. Okay, so we're ready for the example? Here it is. So we're going back to the smoking speech, and we're going to look at the first main point, that it can lead to significant health problems for the smoker. So we've got 3 supporting points under here. We're going to say that lung disease often results, that thousands die each year, and members of my family are among the victims. And we use capital letters, capital A, capital B, capital C. That's what we do for the supporting points. Again, they used complete sentences, but you don't have to. All right? You do not have to use the complete sentences. You could just do little phrases too. Lung disease, deaths, family victims, something like that. Now, is that enough? It is not. You can't just stop there. You can't just say, well, you shouldn't smoke because you could get lung disease. Okay, yes, you can get lung disease, but take us a step further. How do we know this? Well, there have been studies that have been done. We want to know the statistics. Guys, you're not going to go buy a car. You're not going to go to a car salesman and say, I want to buy a car. And here, let's buy this one. Well, I need one with good gas mileage. Does this one have good gas mileage? Yes, it has good gas mileage. Are you like, okay, I'll buy it? Please tell me no. No, Miss Hun, we wouldn't do that. we're going to ask, what is the gas mileage on that car? Not whether it's yes or no. Yes, it has good gas mileage, because people have different views of what good gas mileage is. And let's be frank, the guy wants to sell you the car, or the gal, okay? So you got to ask more questions than that. You need more details. That's what we need. We need details, okay? And don't just stop and say members of my family are among the victims. Tell us about that. This person would probably go on to tell some stories about people they've lost. I can tell you stories about people I've lost in my family to smoking. My grandpa, my dad's father, now he was a smoker and an alcoholic, so both things pretty much did him in. But I have a cousin, her husband was a smoker. From the time he was a teenager, he tried for years off and on to quit. He would struggle and never was able to quit. He ended up developing COPD and died in his 60s when he should have lived, could have lived a much longer life. And he also, what? COPD is a disease of the lungs that you can't breathe like you should. There's a constriction of your lungs, and it's usually caused, most people who have it, it's because of smoking, or there's something else that's damaged their lungs.
You know, like sleep apnea, like have that machine that helps them breathe.
Sleep apnea?
Something like that. I don't remember what it's called.
Well,
Or it's like they don't breathe enough and they start choking.
No, I think that's different.
that's different. I have a CPAP machine because I'm a terrible snorer. My throat closes up during the night if I don't have a CPAP machine forcing air. But I don't have to have oxygen. There's a difference that, usually people with COPD also they're on oxygen usually. Now there are some people who have a specific type of machine. They may have sleep apnea and some other problem that they have to have oxygen also. That happens too. But yeah, I've never smoked. Can I tell you why? One, because I was always told it was bad for you. But the other reason is, when I was a little girl, my grandmother called underwear stains nicotine. And then I heard that there was nicotine in cigarettes, and I thought, ew, who wants to smoke that? And even though I know it's not the same thing, somewhere in the back of my mind, if you are smoking cigarettes, you are smoking dirty underwear. Okay? Yeah, that's why. That's why I never smoked. Okay? All right. So here's the next part, guys. Details. Where'd my arrow go? Where are you? Where are you? Can't find you. Guys, I've lost the arrow. Oh, there you are. Okay. So the next part then is details. So we have main points, supporting points, and details that go in the body of our speeches. So it provides information that breaks down the supporting material. This is where you're going to put names, dates, statistics, personal accounts, okay? All of that kind of stuff. All right, so here's the example. Again, it's the speech about smoking. Lung disease often results. Now, here are the statistics. Men are at 40% greater risk than women. Smoking causes over 60% of all lung problems. Now, 20 years ago, these were accurate statistics. I don't know if they're as accurate today, but they are high. I know anytime I have to go see a doctor for something, are you a smoker? I always get asked that question, because it affects everything. It can affect your heart, it can affect your lungs, all these things. If you're diabetic, yeah. All right. So that is an example of doing the body of your speech. You've got Roman numerals for the main points, capital letters for the supporting points, and then your details, you're going to use numbers. Okay? So, next thing we need to look at are organizational patterns. All right? These are patterns that we use to organize the body of the speech. And there are 5 patterns we're going to look at. Okay? This is like how you decide how you're going to put, what order you're going to put your main points in. How do you arrange them? Are we? Oh. Everybody have this one down? Okay. Yes? No? Okay, so the first pattern is chronological. You're arranging your main points in a time sequence or the order in which they happened. It's great for any kind of biography type speech topic, accounts of events, historical events, anything like that. Let's say you're going to do a speech on the sinking of the Titanic. And so you're going to arrange it chronologically, when the ship took off and when they first hit the iceberg and then the events that led to the final sinking of the ship. Maybe those are the main points you're going to cover. But you're going to do it chronologically. What order did the events happen in? Or we could go back to Michael Jordan. Maybe, what I said with him and his childhood and his high school career and his college career, his NBA career and so forth. All of that, doing it in that order would be a chronological order. It could be I'm thinking. Maybe the history of movies. You want to talk, you're really into movies and or special effects, and you could do a chronological speech, do it in a time frame. This is what developed first, the early special effects, and then here's the middle ground, and here's the next big step in special effects, That would be chronological. What's wrong, Dalton?
I'm not just leaving it to the
Uh-oh.
Did you get that done?
Yeah, I'll figure it out.
Okay. Do we all have this down? Okay. Quentin, did you get it down?
Yeah.
Okay. James, somebody still typing? No, you've all got it. Okay. All right, so here's an example. This is actually the evolution of Batman as a heroic figure. So we're starting, the first one is the initial comic book portrayal. Then we got the 1950s and 60s TV show portrayal, and then the 90s and 2000s movie portrayals, okay? So it's an evolution of Batman. It's in chronological order. We started with the comic book, and then we went to TV shows, and then we went to movies. And it's chronological because that's the order in which they actually happened. That was the evolution, okay? There are all kinds of things you could do in chronological order. Maybe you want to give a speech about the Battle of Gettysburg or 9/11, or, you know, and you could do it all. If you watch documentaries on those things, they usually give it to you in a timeline, in the order that these things happened. Okay, climactic pattern. This is arranging your main points in order of importance. It's often, you can give a dramatic effect to it because you're going from the least to the most, typically. Or the weakest to the strongest, or however you want to look at it. But we're building when we do this. Got this? Here's an example of a climactic pattern. Types of crime in America. We start with shoplifting, that's the first main point. Then we go to white collar crime, that's the second main point. And then we go to violent crime, the third main point. Do you know what white collar crime is? White collar crime, usually is crimes against like government patents or businesses, like insider trading. Martha Stewart went to prison for insider trading, and that's called a white collar crime. Or the rich people and celebrities who went to prison for a little while because they cheated their children's way into college, like Felicity Huffman, Lori Loughlin. Okay, that's considered white collar crimes, where there's money or information involved, but not violence. It's considered a white collar crime. Okay, and then violent crimes can be anything from assault to, well, typically we're talking about murder here. All right, so then the next one is called a spatial pattern, S-P-A-T-I-A-L, spatial pattern. This is organizing by physical space relationships. Like if you were going to give a speech about the Museum of Science and Industry in Chicago, or the Children's Museum in Indianapolis, and you decided you're going to talk about it floor by floor, that would be spatial. A spatial pattern or a spatial arrangement. Tanner, are you typing this down?
I did.
Yeah, I just put it up on the screen.
I did. Just kidding.
So it's a spatial pattern, physical space. Tell me when you're done. You're typing right now. Okay, then I'm moving on.
I got it.
Okay, so, oops, can't do it that way. So here's the example. The world of drugs, North American involvement, Central American involvement, Asian involvement, because that could be by looking at it, splitting it up by state, county, city, country, continent in this case. If you're arranging it that way, that is a spatial organization. Okay, next one. We're almost done with this. Cause and effect patterns. Okay, type this in, Tanner. Organizing by how one area or thing, the cause, leads directly to another, to the other area or thing, the effect. So there are some topics that work well with a cause and effect pattern. I gotta go stand over here for a minute. Sorry. I'm tired of sitting on that little stool. Let's say you're going to do a speech on maybe alcoholism, and you could talk about, you could do it by causes and effects. What are the causes of alcoholism? What are the effects of alcoholism? You break it down that way. Anybody still working on this? Okay, let me show you an example. And
What do we have?
we're going to do one more after this. Oops. Yeah. For today. There is conclusions, but we'll do that tomorrow. Okay? So here's an example. Let's say you're going to do a speech about anorexia. I want you to notice something. For the Roman numerals, we just do causes and effects. That's how we label it. So causes of anorexia, media influence, low self-esteem. Effects of anorexia, physical problems, emotional problems. Okay? So problem solution is very similar. That's the last one of the organizational patterns. Okay? Presents a problem and ideas on how it can be solved. Okay, it's called problem solution. Presents a problem and ideas on how it can be solved. Okay, so here's what it looks like in an outline form. Okay, so there's a need to recycle. Again, just like the cause and effect, you're going to put Roman numeral 1 problems and Roman numeral 2 solutions. So you're going to list them: lack of knowledge, economics, lack of incentive, solutions, education in schools and the media, government encouragement, personal commitments. Okay. All right, so we're going to stop here with your notes. We do have conclusions to do. We will do that tomorrow. Listen, I'm also going to show you my sample outline. Tanner, I'm not done. I'm going to show you my sample outline tomorrow. And then there is an exercise on Canvas on outlining. We're not going to do that until tomorrow, so don't even touch it right now, okay? I had it set to be due on Friday anyway, so we'll do that tomorrow. Questions? No? Okay.
The reading. Tattoo.